right, kids, in order to make your fantastic fall landscape, you're going to need to start out with your paper and a pencil. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a line across our paper. Now, we don't want it's a horizon line. That means it's going to go horizontal. And so that means it's a horizon line that kind of shows you where the ground and the sky are. We don't want it in the middle of our paper. We're going to want it just a little bit higher, but we still want to leave room for like a barn and some other things here off in the distance. So if you go up a little bit from the middle of your paper, you're just going to draw a nice line all the way across your paper like so. It's going to touch both ends of your paper. It doesn't have to be a straight line. It could be curvy, like a hill. That's just fine. Then underneath that line, you're going to go down a little bit past the middle, a little bit closer towards the bottom, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to end up drawing another line across. It doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be curvy. That's okay. After you have your two lines across your paper, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put a couple of like vertical lines going down from the top line to the bottom. We're going to leave this space up here is going to be our sky. This space down here is going to be for our pumpkins. But right here in the middle between the two lines you made, you're just going to draw a little line that comes down. Now it can be a little bit crooked. It could be diagonal. However you want to draw your lines is just fine. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to go up here to this top part where the sky area was, and we're going to draw our barn. In order to do that, all you're going to do is draw a little square. Kind of just goes right behind the lines there. I draw a little door, some windows, and like maybe a nice triangle roof. Next to the barn, I'm going to end up drawing like a windmill. In order to do that, I'm going to go up and make almost like a little triangle, and then just make some X's inside of that triangle. And on the top, I'm going to make a huge X. That's my windmill part coming out. Down here on the ground part, we're going to add some nice fall pumpkins. So I'm just going to draw some circles with some stems on top. I want to make them nice and big. Fill up that whole bottom area down there. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to do some little loop-de-loops, like little vines right in front of my pumpkins that go all the way across. When you're done with that part, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to use some patterns, because we've been talking about patterns, or at least we had a nice little pattern book to watch before this. And each of these squares, I'm going to put a different pattern. And I want my pattern to be big so that when I go back over this with a Sharpie marker, it's not too tiny to trace. On my first little rectangle here, I'm going to add like a little stripe pattern. So I'm going to go through and just add a couple of stripes going down that area. On my second one, I'm going to add just some big circles, like a nice little polka dot pattern. Nice big circles inside of here to fill up that pattern space. I have two different patterns going on in each section. My next one, I think I'm just going to do some nice big hearts, almost like polka dots, but with hearts right in my landscape picture. So let me add some nice big hearts for my pattern. And then I've got one more pattern to make. I think I'm going to make some nice big zigzags for this pattern, going back and forth. Remember, we're going to be tracing these with a big black Sharpie marker when we're all finished. Now that I've got my picture drawn, I'm going to want one of my big fat Sharpie markers, and I am going to go back and trace all of my lines that I drew so that they stand out nice and bold. Now, if you don't trace right on the pencil line, when you're done, you can always go back and you can erase some of the pencil lines that you didn't quite get the Sharpie over. That way it cleans up your picture a little bit, because it won't erase the Sharpie, it'll just erase your lines right off. So all I'm going to have you do for the rest of the class is go ahead and finish tracing your entire picture with Sharpie, and then make sure you put your name on the back of your page and turn it in, but put your name with pencil, because if you put your name with Sharpie, it's just going to show right through the picture, and we don't really want that. As I'm tracing my vines with Sharpie down here, notice I've missed some of my pencil lines. And this is what I was talking about. You can go back and you can erase those pencil lines and kind of clean up your paper a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Then I'm going to go back and continue to just kind of trace up the rest of my picture. Once your whole picture is traced with your black Sharpie, you can go ahead and turn it in to the metal basket. Or actually, if you're at Meadowbrook, you can just give it back to the substitute teacher. But you're going to turn these in because we're going to be coloring these in next week.